Hello, folks. Welcome to the pregame show today. I'm your host, Owen Manning. It's approximately 11:05 a.m. on Saturday, February the 4th. Huge college basketball slate due up for today that we're going to review today on today's pregame show. Anyway, for the temperature today, it's 32 degrees outside. I'm located in Lexington, Kentucky, 32 degrees. And did y'all see the wind chill that was colder than -100 in New Hampshire yesterday? I thought that was kind of wild. Anyway, let's get started with today's game action. So, starting off at 12 o'clock on ESPN2, it's Virginia at VTech today. Vegas did close the game well, it's not closed yet, but Vegas had the game at a pick'em last I checked. Virginia is 17-3, 9-2 in the ACC, which makes them second in the ACC. VTech is 13-9, 3-8 in the ACC, which makes them 12th in the ACC. Obviously, Virginia versus Virginia Tech, you know there's going to be some type of bad blood there. It is an in-state rivalry. Blacksburg and where Virginia is, can't think of it to make it come to my mind right now, but they are 120 miles apart. Virginia does lead the series all time, 96-58. The game is at Castle Coliseum at Virginia Tech. Like I said earlier, it holds 10,000 people. VTech did win the last meeting, 62-53 on Valentine's Day of last year. Virginia has won 3 of their last 5 versus Virginia Tech. Anyways, I'm gonna just break down the teams a little bit so I can tell y'all about them so you can learn some more. So whenever I think Virginia, I think of them as a Virginia team or as a defensive team. Obviously, coming into this game, they've won 7 straight. But anyway, really, whenever I think Virginia, I think of that Ty Jerome national championship team that they had a couple years ago. Virginia is coached by Coach Tony Bennett. And some of the leading scorers for that Virginia team, you have Armon Franklin. He's a guard, averaging 13.1 points a game. Kihei Clark, he's also a guard, averaging 11.4 points a game. Jaden Gardner is a forward, averaging 10.8 points per game. VTech, honestly, when I think of VTech, I think of them as a football school. That Thursday night football game that they had this year, kind of earlier in the college football season, I believe they played on Thursday night. And they just let that whole Enter Sandman intro play. It was bone-chilling even watching it on the TV, let me tell you folks. So anyway, I think they're just more a football school, honestly. But obviously, whenever you have a rivalry, you can throw all their stuff out there. Whenever it's a rivalry, like I'm sure these two schools have, like the stats and all the prerequisites and all that, it really doesn't matter. So anyway, VTech, they're losers of 1 straight entering into the game. They're coached by Coach Mike Young. Some of their leading scorers, Sean Padula, guard, averaging 15.7 points per game. Grant Basile, averaging 14.9 points per game. He's a forward. Forward Justin Mutz is averaging 12.7 points per game and also 7.4 rebounds per game. The game is at a pick'em according to Vegas, and I do like Virginia to win. As of right now, I just think they're a much more skilled ball club, but obviously going on the road in a rivalry game is going to make for a tough game for anybody. The next game I have, it's at 12 o'clock on ESPN, is the number 8 Kansas Jayhawks versus number 13 Iowa State Cyclones. Vegas has the game as Kansas favored by 1.5 points. Kansas entering into the game is 18-4, 6-3 in the conference, second in the Big 12. Iowa State 15-6, 6-3 in the conference, and second in Big 12. The game is going to be played at Hilton Coliseum today, which is at Iowa State. It holds 14,267 fans. They have played once this year, and Kansas won 62-60. So, you can tell that since they played it, it's going to be a competitive game. Obviously, both teams are conference opponents. They know each other. They've already played once. They've got that initial game film. So that's going to make for an even better game this time around, hopefully. It was still a 2-point margin in the first place. So who knows who will win. Kansas, they're a good team. I did see them in person last Saturday as they came to Lexington against my Kentucky Wildcats. They're a solid ball club, let me tell you. They are winners of 2 straight. Bill Self, he's a pretty good coach. I'll give that to him. He's a good coach. Kansas, they're a lengthy team. They've got forwards and guards that listed as 6'8", 6'9". And that's across the board, really. They're a big team. Anyways, about some of the players. Jalen Wilson, he's a forward, averaging 2.3 points per game and this for Kansas, of course. 8.5 rebounds per game for Jay. Sorry about that, folks. We did have some camera difficulties. So anyway, ended off last on Jalen Wilson. So Grady Dick for Kansas, he's averaging 14.5 points per game. He is listed as a guard, but I believe he still is like 6'8". So that just attests to how long that Kansas team is. I mean, it makes it tough for a ball club, let me tell you. Anyway, Kevin McCullough, he's averaging 10.7 points per game, 7.8 rebounds per game, and he's also listed as a guard, but I mean, these players for Kansas, I believe they're about all forwards. Just realistically, these are just positional rankings on ESPN, so don't quote me on their positions. Iowa State, they're coached by TJ Otzelberger. Iowa State is coming into the game, losers of 2 straight. Some players for Iowa State. Jared Holmes is averaging 13.5 points per game. He is a guard. Gabe Kalsher is averaging 13.4 points per game, also listed as guard. And Caleb Grill, averaging 10.7 points per game, also listed as a guard. So, like I said, Kansas is favored by 1.5 points by Vegas. So, I don't know. I think the Jayhawks do cover the 1.5 against the Cyclones today. It is an away game in the Big 12, and I mean, the Big 12 this year, it's just been an absolute bloodbath. They've all just been beating up on each other, you know. So, it's going to be a tough road battle, but I think Kansas does pull it out and cover the 1.5 points. Next up, the game is going to be on ESPN at 4 o'clock today. Is the number 1 ranked Purdue Boilermakers at the number 21 ranked Indiana Hoosiers. Purdue is 22-1, 11-1 in the conference, first in the Big Ten. Indiana is 15-7, 6-5 in the conference, and 4th in the Big Ten. This is another in-state rivalry that we have. You'll see that there's a lot of great games today, some rivalry games, some really big rivalry games, historic ones, in fact, too. So anyway, the campuses, they are 90 miles apart from Indianapolis and Bloomington. Purdue leads 125-90 all time. Purdue has won 4 of the last 5. The game will be played at the historic Assembly Hall, which holds 17,222 fans. You know, Assembly Hall, it's just a bucket place arena. You know the fans are going to be rowdy in there for Indiana. It's going to be a packed house. It's going to be a place to be. So Purdue, I mean, they're a great team. I've seen them play on TV several times. They're number 1 for a reason. They're coming into this game on a 9-game winning streak. Obviously, I mean, their team, it runs through Zach Edey. He's a leading candidate for National Player of the Year, and I think he's going to be one of the players that's going to have a huge impact on the game today. Something else I know about Purdue, the guards, they know their roles. You know, whenever you have a player as prominent as Zach Edey on your team, the guards, if they know their roles, you're probably going to have a good chance of winning the ball game. So the guards, you know, they'll sit there, they'll make an entry pass into Zach Edey on the inside. And then, you know, if Zach Edey gets in trouble, he'll kick it right out to him for an open 3-pointer. So, I don't know, it just works pretty good for him. They're coached by Coach Matt Painter. Anyway, Zach Edey, he's a center, obviously, 7'4". I think he's leading candidate for National Player of the Year, obviously. Averaging 22 points per game, 13 rebounds per game. They also have a guard. His name is Fletcher Lawyer, averaging 12.4 points per game, and another guard, Braden Smith, averaging 9.5 points per game. Indiana, they are coming into the game losers in 1 straight. You know, they're just an historic basketball program. Indiana, they claim to be like the biggest basketball state around. So, I don't know. Hopefully there's no chair throwing today up there at Bloomington. Anyway, they are coached by Coach Mike Woodson. They're the home team today, which I think is going to play a huge advantage into the game. In Indiana, don't sleep on them because they also have one of the other top candidates besides the front runner, Zach Edey, and that is Trace Jackson Davis for the Hoosiers. He's a forward, averaging 19.6 points per game, 11.2 rebounds per game. And then they also have Jalen Hood Shafino averaging 12.3 points per game. He's a guard. And Xavier Johnson averaging 9.9 points per game. He is also a guard. Now, a key matchup in this game today, in the national spotlight today, is Trace Jackson Davis versus Zach Edey. You know, who's going to come out on top on this one-on-one matchup between in-state rivals? You know, Zach Edey, he's 7'4", but Trace Jackson Davis, he's just athletic and he can score the rock. So who's going to score the ball more? Is Zach Edey going to stand in there and just give Indiana fits in the paint, or what? What's going to happen today? Anyway, this game, it did close out a pick'em. And I like Indiana, honestly, to upset Purdue. I mean, it's a home game, rivalry. Anything can happen. And I just think that being the home team is going to play a great advantage here for Indiana. Who knows? So I do have a correction for the last segment. Purdue is located in West Lafayette, Indiana, not Indianapolis like I previously stated. Anyway, the next game we have coming up is on the ACC network at 3 o'clock. It is the Miami Hurricanes at the Clemson Tigers. Miami is 17-5, 8-4 in the conference, which puts them at 4th in the ACC. Clemson is 18-5, 10-2 in the conference, and they're slated first in the ACC for now. The game is played at Little John Coliseum at Clemson, of course, which holds 9,000 fans. Miami, I mean, whenever I think of Miami, I just think of a washed-up football school, to be honest with you. I mean, they've recently made a March Madness tournament run, which, I mean, you know, it's great, but it's March. Anything can happen. They are coached by Coach Tim Miles. They are coming into the game as winners of one straight and are led by players Isaiah Wong, which is averaging 16.3 points per game at guard. Another guard, Jordan Miller, averaging 15 points per game. And then a forward, Norchard Ormer, averaging 13.9 points per game. Now, this Clemson team, I've seen them play on the TV once. They were playing against Louisville, which is honestly one of the worst Power 5 programs I've ever seen. And I just wasn't impressed by Clemson, to be honest. I mean, I didn't really see anything, but I guess their consistency and persistence has paid off for them as they are first in the ACC. You know, whenever you think of Clemson, you also think of a football school in recent years. You know, Dabo Swinney being the coach down there. I mean, just leading that program. I know, last couple of years it's been a little but, I mean, I still think of them as a football school personally. They are coming into the game on a one-game losing streak, coached by Coach Brad Brownell. For Clemson, you have a leading scorer and rebounder, Hunter Tyson, coming in a forward, averaging 16.3 points per game, 9.7 rebounds per game. Chase Hunter is averaging 14.5 points per game at guard and listed as center on ESPN. PJ Hall averaging 14 points per game. And in that game, Clemson is favored by 2 points according to Vegas, and I don't know, it's at Clemson. I'm sure that arena can get rowdy just as all. And then, so I do like Clemson to cover the 2 points today at 3 o'clock. Now we're coming in to one of them. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's a ton of great matchups today. But this is a true marquee matchup that everybody's going to be watching. It's North Carolina Tar Heels at the Duke Blue Devils at 6:30 on ESPN. That game is going to be played at the Cameron Indoor Arena. It holds 9,314 fans, and I'm sure every single one of them are going to be in there on their feet the whole time because, let me tell you, the Battle of Tobacco Road here is just an insane rivalry. You know, Cameron, it's a bucket list arena. I want to go there someday, watch a ball game. But anyway, North Carolina, they are 15-7, 7-4 in the conference, 6th in the ACC. Duke is 16-6, 7-4 in the conference, and they're also tied with North Carolina for 6th in the ACC. You know, like I said, the Battle of Tobacco Road, the two schools are 8 miles apart, folks. I mean, the energy and intensity, I'm sure, as you could feel it and smell it and taste it in the air as soon as you walked out the door in either Chapel Hill or Durham this morning. I'm sure it's just crazy down there in North Carolina, folks. I mean, I'd like to be there. It'd be a good time. Anyway, North Carolina leads the rivalry 143-115 all time over the Blue Devils. Now, honestly, the two coaches of the programs, they're fairly new coaches to the rivalry, But don't let them being new coaches to the rivalry fool you, because they've both been in the NCAA tournament, and they actually faced off in the NCAA tournament against each other. So, I mean, even though it's not your classic Coach K and Roy Williams matchup like you've been used to in the previous years, it's still going to be a great ball game because these are still two great coaches for two historic blue blood programs. Anyway, Duke, I think playing at Cameron Indoor, it's got to be one of the best home court advantages in the sports. I mean, you have Assembly Hall in Indiana, and then you have Cameron Indoor. Those two are just amazing home court advantages. Duke is coached by Coach John Shire. They are winners of 2 straight coming into the game. Leading scorers for Duke, Kyle Flipowski averaging 15.8 points per game, 9.5 rebounds per game. He is listed at center. Jeremy Roach averaging 12.2 points per game at guard. And forward, Mark Mitchell averaging 9.1 points per game. North Carolina, I'm sure they've got a short bus ride today. They're going to be locked in on that bus ride and just ready to go whenever they walk into the arena. They're coached by Coach Hubert Davis. They did lose their last game. Leading scorers for the Tar Heels, Armando Bacot averaging 17.7 points per game, 11.4 rebounds per game as well. Guard Caleb Love averaging 19.5 points per game. And R.J. Davis averaging 16 points per game, also a guard. So some other notable matchups today. You have a number 25 Auburn at number 2 Tennessee. And you also have Boise State at number 22 ranked San Diego State, which I believe has some implications in the Mountain West Conference. And number 10 Texas at number 7 Kansas State. That's going to be a good game as well, folks. I mean, there's just a lot of good basketball today. You also have a number 12 Gonzaga at number 18 St. Mary's. That game is going to be a little bit later, I think, maybe slated for a 10:30 tip-off. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that one. But anyway, like I said, Duke, they are favored by 3 points in Vegas. And I think Duke, they're going to cover that 3 points just because of their indoor advantage, or because of their home court advantage, sorry. I just like Duke to win that ball game and cover as well. Now it's time for our Ivy League special, folks. This is a great segment here, the Ivy League special. So you have the Cornell Big Red at the Penn Quakers. Penn is favored by 1 point, according to the folks in Vegas. The game is on ESPN Plus at 6 o'clock. Cornell, they are 15-6, 5-3 in the conference, second in the Ivy League. Penn is 12-11, 4-4 in the conference, and 4th in the Ivy League. The game is at the Palestra, which holds 8,725 fans at Penn, of course. And Cornell, they are coached by Coach Brian Earl. Cornell's losers of 1 straight. The mascot for the Big Red is named the Big Red Bear. I thought that's pretty interesting, Big Red Bear. Anyway, Cornell is led by guard Nazir Williams, averaging 12.9 points per game. Guard Greg Dolan, also averaging 12.9 points per game. And then guard Chris Manning, averaging 11.4 points per game. Now Penn, they are led by Coach Steve Donahue, which is also a former Cornell head coach. Wonder if there's some bad blood or what happened there. I didn't look too much into it, but I mean, the former coach of Cornell, what happened there? There could have been something in the water. Who knows? So anyways, Penn is coming into the game. Winners of 3 straight. They are led by guard Jordan Dingle, averaging 23.8 points per game. Guard Clark Schlagert, averaging 14 points per game. And forward Max Martz, averaging 10.4 points per game. In this game, Penn favored by 1 point. I think Penn does cover that 1 point today. I mean, you look at Cornell's record of 15-6. I mean, and Penn's at 12-4. But I mean, Vegas likes Penn. I mean, it is a home court advantage in the Ivy League, which I mean, in any conference, it's tough to play on the road. So I mean, I can see why Vegas has Penn favored, and I think I do like Penn to cover that 1 point as well. All right. Now heading into our local fan segment of the day, we have the Florida Gators at the Kentucky Wildcats. The Cats are favored by 5.5 by the bookies down there in Vegas. The game is on ESPN at 8:30, but I do anticipate it to tip off a little bit later because we all know that Duke North Carolina game loves to run on just forever. So I mean, look for that thing to tip off a little later. Anyway, Florida is 13-9, 6-3 in the conference. Slots them in at 5th in the SEC. Kentucky is 15-7, 6-3 in the conference. Also tied for 5th in the SEC with Florida. The game is played at Rep Arena, which holds 23,500 fans. Now, folks, these figures, I just pulled them off the first Wikipedia number I saw, so don't take them to heart. I think Rupp, it holds more like 22.5 with their recent renovations, but I don't know. This is just a number I pulled off there, so it don't really matter, but I'm just saying that's just what happens. So anyway, Florida, they're coached by Coach Todd Golden. He is the youngest coach in the SEC, first-year head coach for Florida. They're winners of one straight, and that last win, it's a big one for them. They beat Tennessee, the number 2 ranked team in the nation at the time. I mean, you beat a team like that, that's a statement win. That's a huge win. It'll give you some momentum, of course, too. Anyways, they're led by they're led by a player, Colin Castleton. He's a forward, averaging 15.1 points per game, 7.7 rebounds per game. They also have guard Will Richardson, averaging 10.1 points per game, and Kyle Lofton, also a guard, averaging 8.8 points per game. Now, obviously, the University of Kentucky Wildcats are coached by Coach John Calipari. We've won one straight against a key factor for the Cats today. What's going to happen with the injuries? Does Cason Wallace suit up? How's Severe Wheeler's ankle doing after he rolled it last game? So some leaders for the Cats: Oscar Tshiebwe, forward, averaging 16.5 points per game, 13.6 rebounds per game. Antonio Reeves, guard, averaging 13.4 points per game. Then Jacob Toppin, forward, averaging 11.5 points per game. Some keys to the game for the Kentucky Wildcats that I have written down for us today. Number 1, overcome Colin Castleton. He's listed at 6'11", folks. That's a big fella standing in there. Oscar, he's listed at 6'9", but, that 2 inches, it'll play a big difference. It can't be an Alabama game for Oscar. Whenever we played against Alabama, they had long, big men, and they were just eating Oscar up all day. We couldn't figure anything out. So we just can't have another reminiscent game like that. It's got to be more like the Tennessee game where we just took care of their big men. Number 2, we need to rebound the ball, okay? Last week against Kansas on Saturday, in the first half, we had 0 offensive rebounds. That is pathetic, folks. 0 offensive rebounds. Come on now. We need to rebound the ball on the offensive end. Obviously, offensive rebound, it's going to be tougher to get because you're not in as good position, but we just can't have 0. That's terrible. So anyway, I think our guards, they need to crash, because what me and a few of my buddies have came up with is our guards, they're getting used to Oscar, just reeling in all the rebounds, grabbing the ball. But our guards, they also need to crash too, because against good teams and against well-disciplined teams, they're all going to set in there and box out instead of leaking out like our guards like to do. We need to stay in there, crash the boards, and rebound the ball. And number 3, we need to have good bench play today. I've heard Cason Wallace, he's questionable. I hope he does play. Of course, I hope he plays. I hope Severe Wheeler also plays. So, but we do need good bench play today. We can't become stagnant. We can't have people out there not playing defense, and we need to have good play off of the bench. If one of our guards, either Cason or Severe, is unable to go, we're going to need to have even better bench play to win the ball game. That's just how it is. I think good minutes from Aduthiero. We saw a glimpse of Damian Collins last game off the bench. It was great. He comes in and he scores 3 points, and then as soon as he makes a free throw, Cal pulls him. You don't see him for the rest of the game. So, you know, there's obviously some other stuff going on there with him, but I mean, I think that we could play those players. I mean, you know, in college basketball, they say you got to shorten your rotation, about 7 or 8 men. Well, I don't see why we can't play 8 or 9. But I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's why I'm not coaching nothing right now. So anyway, Kentucky, like I said, we are favored by 5.5 points, and I don't know. I mean, that 5.5 is tough. I'd stick away from the spread. Honestly, I'd take Kentucky money line to win. I mean, man, I hate to say it, but Florida 5.5 is a pretty solid pick, really. I mean, in Rep Arena, Kentucky's fans, they're going to show up just like we did last week against Kansas. It's going to be enough rowdy, raucous atmosphere in there, or at least I hope so. The 8:30 tip, I'm not a big fan of it, but it is what it is. Can't do nothing about it, and it's probably going to get pushed back anyway, so I wouldn't be surprised if we don't tip till 9 o'clock, which would be an absolute shame. But anyway, some more sporting events. We have the Clash at the Coliseum. It's going to be on Fox tomorrow at 8 o'clock. It's Kevin Harvick's last year in NASCAR, and there's going to be a race break performance of Wiz Khalifa down there in LA. So anyway, that's all I have for y'all for the pregame show today. I'll catch y'all later. Owen Manning, signing off.